Today, I am exposing myself by sharing with you guys my most played Nintendo Switch games. And considering I've owned a Nintendo Switch since a couple of months after its launch, there's quite a lot of hours on quite a lot of games. And whilst this is in no way a representation of my favourite games, because some of those are short but sweet and fantastic, I think it does give you a good idea of some of the games on the Switch which you can play endlessly. So we're going to start off this list with the game I've played the most of, and that's Animal Crossing New Horizons. Now, not only do I have over 1,000 hours on my Switch account, I also have a second Animal Crossing account, so I could have a second island that has a further like 450 hours on it. So in reality, we are well over 1,500 hours spent in the game. But the reason I don't think any other game is going to come close to the hours I've spent in Animal Crossing is just the time when it released. Because if you remember back, Animal Crossing, at least in the UK, released literally a day before the lockdown started. And although Animal Crossing is not a game I pick up anymore, I look back upon my hours of playing it with great fondness. Because not only was it the only way I could socialize with my friends and meet up with them mid-pandemic, it was also one of the first games I ever streamed when I first started my Twitch channel. And I think for me, the thing that just made Animal Crossing work is it was just one of the easiest games to sit down and play. I could play it for 5 minutes and have fun. I could play it for like 15 hours and have a great time. And honestly, even though you had to kind of make your own fun, be it decorating, villager hunting, hanging out with friends, playing hide and seek, that turned out to be its strength as it basically became a sandbox life sim. And whenever Nintendo decide to release the Switch 2, you can betcha that the game I will be the most looking forward to will be the Animal Crossing released on that console. There's something so special about Animal Crossing, no matter which console you bought it on, and there's nothing like seeing your absolute favorite villager say hello to you on a brand new game. So obviously, Animal Crossing is not just my most played, but one of my all-time favorite games. In terms of games that I think might give it a run for its money, the only two that come to mind is Palia, because it's a live service game, or Disney Dreamlight Valley for the exact same reason. Now, admittedly, this isn't on the Nintendo Switch, this is actually on Steam, but I was going to count it anyway as it is on the Switch. I just looked today, I have 253 hours in it. And unlike Animal Crossing, that's only gonna go up. Now, I know me and Disney Dreamlight Valley have had an interesting relationship in the past, mainly with the criticism having to do with the price of in-game currency and the cost of certain stuff. But despite my problems with it, you can guarantee that every single Disney Dreamlight Valley update, I'll log in just to see what it's all about. I think the thing Disney Dreamlight Valley does so well, and one of the reasons why I can't stop playing it, is that it kind of gives you a reason to do all your standard life and farming sim stuff. And the fact that you're carrying out quests for some of your favorite Disney characters just makes it all that much better. And I mainly criticize the game out of love because it really does have some incredible potential. And there's so much further and so much more they can do with it, especially with the introduction of multiplayer later in the year. So I can definitely see Disney Dreamlight Valley being a lot more than this in a year's time. The next bunch of games actually kind of surprised me. I know I have a lot of Pokemon plushies behind me and in my room and on my shirt, but if you were to ask me what some of my most played games on the Switch were, I wouldn't have guessed it was Pokemon. But wait until you hear these hours. So it turns out I have over 180 hours in Pokemon Sword and Shield. I had no idea it was quite that much. I don't know what it is with the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but it's gotten me to look back at the Sword and Shield times with great fondness. The reason I have so many hours in Pokemon is not because the stories are thrilling and I can't put them down. It's because of shiny hunting. And even though Pokemon Sword and Shield had its problems, the story wasn't great, everything interesting happened to other people and not to you, shiny hunting in the game was actually a lot of fun. And although they didn't get the base game 100% right, the DLC really truly made the game better. I also think a lot of my hours in Pokemon Sword and Shield was spent trying to shiny hunt the legendaries as well. I think it was such a clever mode to put into the game. I think it brought a lot of people back to Sword and Shield who had kind of forgotten about it. However, despite this amount of hours, I wouldn't say it's my favorite Pokemon game. That goes to Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now, although I have over 80 hours in the game, I've actually never finished the story. I got close, I just never got round to it. And that's because shiny hunting is so much fun in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Pokemon Legends Arceus and Let's Go do one thing that I don't think any of the other Pokemon games do, and that is introduce a whole different demographic of people into shiny hunting. But another reason why I played so much of Legends Arceus is because battling was so much less prominent. I have to admit, I think Pokemon battles are probably my least favorite part of Pokemon games. So to have so much less of them and a way to shiny hunt that doesn't involve battling at all, it was perfection. And then we have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I feel like I need to give it a chance with the DLC because that really redeemed Pokemon Sword and Shield. But despite playing 65 hours of the game, I haven't finished it. And honestly, I'm struggling to finish it before the first wave of the DLC comes out. I just went off of it so fast. To me, the shiny hunting is just not as rewarding, not as fun as it was in the previous games. Some of the shinies are nearly impossible to catch, seeing as how shinies in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have no sound effect and no sparkle. And I know for some people that's a lot of fun, but for me, if I can't spot them, I don't see the fun in it. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, the next two games won't surprise you at all. First, we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I have over 90 hours in, and then we have Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I have over 60 hours in. Now, admittedly, I'm yet to play the DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, so that will probably lift it up when I get around to it. But despite the fact that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has less hours, it is one of my favorite games of all time. Now, don't get me wrong, I adored the story of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And in fact, I would go as far to say I think I preferred the combat system of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 versus 3, but I think it was the backstory of all the characters in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 that made it truly special. And I can honestly say, I don't think I've ever cried more at a video game in my entire life. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 touched me in ways I didn't think was possible. The cutscenes were absolutely incredible, the story was something I couldn't put down, and some of the conversations and the dialogue had between the characters still sticks in my brain now. For me, a sign of a truly incredible game is the fact that it lives on with you past the time you finished it, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 did exactly that to me. And although they are very different to my classic cozy games that I go for, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 3 are by far one of my favorite games I've ever played, and I love them to pieces. Getting back to the cozy vibes, however, we have Wylde Flowers, which is just over 45 hours. I truly mean it when I tell you that Wylde Flowers is one of my favorite games and favorite farming sims. And full disclosure, although they have sponsored me in the past, I only took it because I adored the game and it truly is something really special to me. The thing that really drew me to Wylde Flowers isn't its farming sim mechanics, nor is it all the magic that intertwines with everything you do. It truly is down to the characters, the dialogue, and the voice acting. Now, I must admit the topics of Wylde Flowers definitely resonated really strongly within me, which is one of the reasons why it means so much to me as a game. The other thing that really surprised me about Wylde Flowers, I think, was the story. I think too often in farming sims, the story is something that takes a back seat. It kind of gives you a vague reason to farm or do bundles, that kind of thing, but it is very much in the background of all the farming sim stuff you do. Wylde Flowers kind of tipped this on its head, and instead of the farming sim mechanics being the majority of the game, it was actually just a small part of it, with most of the stuff you do in the game being all about the story. And when I complain that there's too many farming sims that are alike, I don't ever mean Wylde Flowers. This is truly a game that sits separate to basically every other farming sim I've played, and if you haven't played it, I can't recommend it enough. The wild part is, even at 45 hours, all I've done so far is just finish the main story. There is still so much else to do, and there's even a chance this game might be updated further. And sticking with the farming sim theme, we have Coral Island. Now, I'm cheating on this one a little bit because it's not out on the Switch yet, However, I think you guys might be interested to know that I actually have over 47 hours in the game. I've definitely picked this up a lot more recently. I had a long break with it, and I have been astounded by the difference between the game now versus when I last played it about 4 months ago. If you don't know, Core Island is a farming sim, which is probably coming to the Switch early to mid 2024. And I think one of the reasons I keep on gravitating towards it is it just has a few unique mechanics that keeps me coming back for more. My favorite being the ability to swim in the ocean and the future appearance of mermaids. Now, I know there is a sizable update coming sometime soon. I've actually been playing it in beta, and I think this adds so much more to the game. I just think this is a really solid and a really fun farming sim. The fact that there are so many NPCs just makes the world feel so alive. And I think the festivals are some of my favorite in any farming sim I've played. So this is definitely one of those games where I think my hours are gonna go up in the future. Then we have Storia Seasons: A Wonderful Life. At the moment, I have around 25 hours. However, I am nowhere near finishing it, and I am slowly working my way towards it. I think the only reason I haven't played it more is I just feel like, ironically, even though the months are only 10 days long, that they're still a little bit too long. I make it to about the 5-day mark and I'm like, I'm having a great time. And then by the 8th day, I'm like, can this be over? I've done everything I want to do in this month. And I find myself kind of speeding towards getting to the time jump. To me, this was a game that was almost incredible, but they just let the gameplay be a tad too slow for what I'm looking for right now. And I also think that they tried to stay so true to the original that they missed out on some of the magic that could come alongside modernizing the franchise. Another game I haven't played nearly enough of is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I have actually only played 30 hours of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the game. I just have so many other games to play. I just don't find myself picking it back up. I think my issue with Tears of the Kingdom that I also had with Breath of the Wild is once you haven't played the game in a solid month, when you pick it back up, you'll have no idea what you're doing, no idea how to play, and you're basically forced to restart the game if you want to have any chance of enjoying your playthrough. So once I stopped picking it up, I found it really hard to pick it up again because you can't just jump in where you left off. And unfortunately, my official hours for Breath of the Wild has been lost to the ether. I did get the Zelda Switch and I decided to restart my save when I got that Switch to try and get ready for Tears of the Kingdom. And unfortunately, I didn't realize that means your hours gets lost as well. So it says 30 because that's how many hours I played before Tears of the Kingdom came out. But that was actually my second save. I can't believe I almost forgot about it, but I also have 160 hours in Splatoon 2. And sadly, I don't think Splatoon 3 is going to come anywhere near this sort of number. I honestly can't really figure out what Splatoon 3 is missing that Splatoon 2 had, but I absolutely adored Splatoon 2. I even went as far as to try and play every single Splatfest there was in the game. Despite my feelings about Splatoon 3 though, Splatoon 2 was a game I absolutely loved, and although I won't play it much anymore, I did have a great time with it. So those are my most played games on the Switch. Let me know your most played game in the comments down below. And if you want to see a game which is most definitely going to make this list next year, then you can click this video here.